Hello, friends. Welcome to the fourth edition of Left India Filmotsav and Awards World Cine Fest. And here we are in conversation with Mr. John Washburn. He is a director of film Basement and another film which is The Dead Drop. The Basement has been nominated for the Left India Awards 2020, and the film The Dead Drop is an official selection. So, welcome, John, to Left India.
Thanks for having me. Delighted to be here.
Thank you again for sparing your time to talk to us.
Thank you.
We have Sahitya. He is on our selection panel, and he is the first person responsible for having selected your film for Left India.
Hooray!
Hi, how are you? And I'm not the only person responsible for it.
No,
I
but
also
you're the
have
first. That's well done.
I have another friend of mine who's Shruti Bardwaj, who's also in the selection panel. And your film Abasement was originally her decision because she has a thing for horror films.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Well, thank her.
So I'll take this opportunity. Sahitya, it's best that if you ask anything in particular that you want to know about the film to Mr. John.
Yeah, sure. I would like to start with Abasement first because firstly, we would like to know from you how challenging it is, or I mean, if it's not challenging, then how is the process of filming a short film in the genre of horror?
I think that the hardest part for me is balancing suspense and surprise. So in a short film, I guess I come from a point of view that you should still care about the characters and you should still care about what they're dealing with. So it's not just about sort of the gruesome end they meet, but it reflects in some way some part of your own experience as a person. So you need to care about the characters. And I think the challenge with a very short film is how to get in the head of a character very, very quickly, while at the same time setting up sort of the anticipation of the fear or creating fear while you're setting up the character.
I also understand.
Among us, Madhavi
I'm
is.
sorry for joining late. I'm sorry for joining late.
That's okay. Sometimes
Okay.
internet does play games with us, so it's okay. You can blame it on the internet. Earlier, when we used to have live shows, we used to blame it on the traffic. So now we can blame it on the internet, which keeps buffering. So
Madhavi appearing in this live chat is just like it's in the theme of John's movie. The shadows appeared, and here Madhavi appeared.
Sahitya, you meet me after this.
all right, yeah, John, we'll continue. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Sahitya, you were asking something.
Yeah, John, I also understand that the elements that you've used in your movie, which are kind of, I mean, in the genre of horror, they also have an underlying deeper meaning to it with respect to your character. I mean, they have more meaning than what is being shown on screen. Can you please explore on that?
Yeah. So this story is, there's sort of kind of two parallel tracks that come together. There's this guy who's kind of beaten down at work, and he's kind of beaten down at home, and he's just sort of at this place where he's kind of run out of moves in his life, and then meanwhile there are these shadows kind of following him. And I guess you could sort of I guess I'd want the audience to decide for themselves what the shadows mean, but in a way, it's kind of sort of this externalization of the existential terror of life or something. But so for me, the kind of the heart of the moment heart of the movie is the moment when he's kind of looking at his reflection in the bathroom and is just kind of despair and disgust.
I was about to come to that particular scene, but unfortunately we don't have the actor here. So could you share some thoughts about how was it for him to perform with his own reflection? Because that is a tough ask for any actor, I feel.
Yeah, Sam Breslin-Wright, who's our guy, is a great actor. He's a professional actor. That's what he does for a living. And he was extremely up for whatever. He was like, "Hey, let's have him just be in his underpants. That's like the most horrifying thing possible, is a middle-aged guy just in his underpants."
Right.
And so he was really willing to go there. And then we kind of decided, no, let's give him a t-shirt, or else it becomes about this other thing. But so the way that scene is written is there's a lot of unplayable action, meaning it talks a lot about sort of the despair of his life, and he's looking weary, but it ended up, I think, being helpful for Sam in the sense of we did actually quite a lot with him, sort of just kind of I don't know how to explain, like just getting into expressing sort of despair and regret and giving up.
Yeah, that scene where especially he is brushing, and the sound itself is quite haunting. It transports you into that state of mind that there's something going to happen here. Maybe he's going to, there's an image which crossed my mind when I watched the film, was that maybe his gums are going to start bleeding now.
Oh.
So, it was that disturbing. I mean, you're really feeling for this man, that this guy is all in his shorts, and he is just moving around very candidly as if nothing is wrong. But this guy does not know what the world is behind him. If there is the sixth direction or the 10th direction, as we say, the space around us which is invisible. The games that part of the world is playing and haunting.
Right.
The space that is appearing looks normal, but there is a space which is invisible to him. You built it up very interestingly, and like Sahitya says, that is very difficult for any actor to play, to act in front of a mirror, because you don't see yourself. So, but you have to imagine that you're looking at yourself in the mirror. So, how did you storyboard the short film? Did you have a storyboard, or you just went in flow with the time and explained it to the technicians and the cameraman?
No, every shot, the whole film was storyboarded. I knew we had a day to shoot the film. The DP I wanted to use was very clear. He had a day. And there was I wanted to make sure that we had enough time, to do everything. So yeah, everything was storyboarded and kind of thought through. Obviously, things change on set, but it's very meticulously planned. And stuff like the scene of brushing teeth. And brushing teeth is kind of a cliche in films.
Yes.
But so the way I wanted to subvert that was, it's usually like you sort of see a few frames, and it's meant to represent a kind of a casual domestic moment. But to subvert that, and I don't know if it works, but hopefully, let's hold on that and just until it's uncomfortable, and then hold on it a little bit more, and to try and just give that meaning, like different meaning, to try and change the meaning of it.
Yeah, it was very subtle the way it carried, and it brought in that haunting element, the horror element that we call known as. I mean, it was very subtle, and it was introduced very interestingly. Right from your first frame itself, when you cast the actor from behind, who's on
Hmm.
the phone before he is entering his house, and you have a shadow uh, crossing just for a fraction of a second. I mean, so that was a good setup. It
Oh,
was
thank
like
you.
that was a brilliant setup right in the beginning. You transported the audience, us, into that zone. It's like, and you have hardly 5 minutes for the film, so that was very quick, and to achieve that element right in the beginning, and then to continue with it is something which was very interesting to notice for a short film, because we hardly get to see short films, and especially the micro short films, which is around 5 minutes, in a horror genre. So
Hmm.
it's they're more emotional or romantic or maybe issue based kind of topics. But in the horror genre, we have very few films which come our way, at least. We haven't been exposed to that. They take a little longer to set up, basically,
Hmm.
uh, build up and the music and all. But what you achieved in so short span was amazing. And what was that novel signifying, which says the three women? Because the wife, when she's sleeping and she's holding a
Yes.
novel, and
Yes.
because your camera is first soft focus on her, and then it
Hmm.
takes her into focus, and it's very bold, on the novel
You
written three
stole my
women.
question again.
Um,
So did it signify anything, or you had
yeah.
something in mind, or it was just
It does.
could have been any other novel?
Oh,
It
it, no,
does.
absolutely. Well, Madhavi, do you you have a point of view? I would love to hear it.
Yeah, I have so many point of views, but first I wanted to ask you, apart from this question, why did you name it a basement?
Um,
Because it's just shot in the basement, everything happens in the basement, or is it some other kind of thinking involved?
well,
Yeah, because I feel after looking at the movie that these are all the shadows that we all have inside us, bad or good. So they follow us somewhere. So what
was
was it?
yeah. So a basement has two meanings. There's the literal a basement in a basement,
Yeah.
and then there's a basement meaning to be abased, to be degraded. Um,
Yes.
and so it's the story of this guy, and he's clearly when we meet him, he's being basically
He's
abused.
interacting. He's interacting all the kind of fears in the base of his heart, or maybe somewhere down his feelings. These are all his feelings which you are trying to project. Maybe I'm right or wrong. I don't know. Just
Yeah.
explain.
Well, I mean, it's not it's not explicit in the film whether that comes from him or that's external to him. Um,
Yes.
and I think that should be left to the viewer.
Okay.
But I do think the when we meet him
Huh.
and he's being yelled at on the phone, and then
Yes.
he goes in and he tries to explain to his wife, this sort of he had a
Yeah, and she says, "Can we talk about it
and she
later?"
sort of shuts him down, and the
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. Completely
um
understand.
but but to get back to the specific why the three women, the book, it's a book about it's a novel about these three different women exploring um well their sort of kind of sexual possibility. It represents in the film, it represents her life outside of him. um
Yeah.
I I went through, I don't know, I made a list of book after book. Like, I wanted her having fallen asleep reading a book, and the book what book it was important. And for a while
Yes.
it was the Henry Miller book, and for a while it was this and that, and it was actually the actress who plays the wife who suggested it, and it was just perfect. It really,
Okay.
it immediately, like when she suggested it, it immediately, it very much spoke to, said a lot about what her character might be, which said a
And,
lot
Yes.
about.
and the
Yes.
relationship
Or
and the
Yeah,
yeah, maybe
relationship
the relationship
between the
between
husband
them.
and the wife.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, which is what is very beautifully, and in minimistic time and short has been described. It's been depicted very well in a very brief span of time. The entire relationship. I mean, we do get transported into the man's mind and their domestic situations and relationship uh, also. So it is just not a horror film for us when we look at the film. There's much more than what you have tried to say through the film.
Wow,
The
that's
the
lovely to hear.
the best part which I liked was when I started to look at the movie. I mean, the first part when the guy's calling and he's talking to someone in
Yes.
the first scene of it, and when he enters the home that towards the steps, there are some shadows. As Sahitya told me that I came like that into this
Yes, yes, yes. Before you came,
interview.
that's what we were discussing, and we
I don't know
thought.
how you guys managed to introduce Mr. John, but trust me, I would have done a better job. Both, both of them.
Madhavi was, hell bent upon that because she likes horror films, and she's an ardent fan of horror films. And she said, "I want to introduce Mr. John uh, for this session," and but
Wow.
the internet delayed her. So,
Um, lovely.
But
uh,
it's never too
yes,
late.
yes. Was the music specially composed for the film, or it was used? Stock music was used.
No, I made the music for this.
Ooh,
Oh,
that's
okay.
good.
That's interesting to know. So you compose music as well.
Yes, in a previous life, I was a professional musician and composer, um, and played in rock bands and traveled all
Mm-hmm.
over North America, um, and had been kind of out of it. So that I had a composer lined up. It was a very good friend um, and former collaborator or bandmate, who had composed the music for my other film that's in the festival, Dead Drop.
Yeah.
And he was going through some stuff and moving and sort of had to drop out. And so I kind of jumped in. The theme of the music is based on it's the sort of core melody is this Gregorian chant of for the dead. Um, and it's used actually quite a lot in a lot of films. So I try to kind of hide it, disguise it a little bit. But it's what Kubrick used for The Shining.
Shining.
It's in many films. Our editor pointed it out. He pointed out that theme. He pointed out a video that described how that theme was used in a lot of different videos, in a lot of different films, and this idea of it's a very simple. I think it's like 4-note theme, and it can kind of it can express in a lot of different ways. So it's it's kind of menacing in the beginning, and then when he's sitting on his bed by himself, or it's kind of plaintive and sad, and then as he's heading down into the basement, it's again like threat and fear.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very interesting to know that you switched from music to filmmaking. So how did this switch happen, and what made you turn into filmmaking? I mean, from music. Not that you've given up music, obviously, because you compose music for your own film now.
I
But yeah, just a little bit of about that journey.
yeah. Well, I think with music, I had kind of taken that as far as I felt I could. I was getting older and had responsibilities and needed to, make money. And so my
The moment you say you're getting older, it's like, why are you saying you're getting older? You're not older. You're not getting
well,
older.
with each passing
Yes.
day, every day,
Yes.
it happens. It's all good.
In the numbers, yes, but we're gaining experience as the days
Well,
pass. Yes.
I had, mouths to feed.
As long as the brain is young, I guess.
Oh, of course.
All
No,
good.
no, it's playing in nightclubs has it has an expiration date. That's okay.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and I was working as a creative director in advertising, where I was doing a lot of TV and other video content. And so I'd spent quite a lot of time around production, around and on sets, and thinking about persuasive storytelling. And so I think it was just sort of a natural, removing the storytelling from the requirements of a marketing brief, and just sort of what are the stories I have and that I want to tell and that I want to share. And the first film I made almost by accident. It started out as a lark and spiraled, and then this one, ABASEMENT, was the second one, and it was very much more deliberate and thoughtful in my having a specific thing beyond just the story itself, but a specific thing I wanted to express or communicate.
So, have you considered making a feature based on ABASEMENT?
Not super seriously.
Okay.
I've got a feature script of a kind of horror-ish or maybe horror adjacent idea around it's sort of it's kind of almost like a zombie-ish thing, but it's about control, and it's about trust. I mean, I think what sort of animates a zombie isn't the undead, but it's this idea of society kind of falling apart around you, and how does that drive you? And certainly this year has given a lot of inspiration to that.
Yeah. Actually, the COVID is it has.
The COVID and then the political situation here has been kind of crazy.
Yes.
There's been a lot of undermining of just sort of institutions that we take for granted.
True. Yeah, absolutely. I asked this question of the feature is because most of the short films which do the festival rounds also are some sort of testers. It works as a scratch for those filmmakers. They test their films and the short stories with the festivals and the audiences, and
Yes.
it instills confidence in them. Well, if the story is working, then it can be blown into a feature. And
But I would love
it
to
becomes easy to
add
convince
to
them, take it to the studios and convince the studios to turn it into features, because these short films have done a good festival rounds.
Yeah, it's a good point, and it's not that I haven't thought about it, I don't know that it's it's a
So
no,
you can,
it's a good
you
thought.
can think about it now.
No, I will. It's there's a big question of Sam after he gets got. Is he dead? Is he infected? Is he or what?
That's what you want to
That's
see.
exactly,
That's
yeah,
what you
that's
want to
exactly
see.
what you can explore when you do a full length.
All right. I mean, for me, it was more of a. It was less of an example of this story, and it was more for
Experience, kind of a share.
well, experience and as a calling card for me as a storyteller.
Absolutely. I mean, you gave us goosebumps in
Yeah.
5 minutes. It's like, all right. So you have another film with us, which is The Dead Drop,
Yes.
which is completely
Based
opposite
on you.
to Abasement. It doesn't look like as if it's been made by the same filmmaker. They're two different genres and two different styling of filmmaking. How did the Dead Drop happen?
So the dead drop, as I mentioned, it sort of happened by accident. I had it was I had been walking through my Brooklyn neighborhood with my kids. I had two boys who were in the film, and we stumbled on the wardrobe department for the TV show The Americans, which is about
The costume one. The costume.
Yes.
Costume department of America.
Yeah. So they were shooting out of this neighborhood in Brooklyn, and the costume department was run out of a storefront in this sort of side street. And I thought that was funny, and I took a picture of them in front of it, and that sort of planted the seed of, what if a sort of a gang of kids, kind of in the spirit of Stranger Things, was in, a kind of cat and mouse spy world of the Americans. Yeah, and so this idea of kind of this gang of kids disrupts this spy code handoff. So it was very in the spirit of kind of, I don't know, 1980s Steven Spielberg sort of adventure kind of things.
The E.T.
Yeah.
This leads me to asking a very obvious question, which is, how was it working with children?
Super hard.
Very
so
obviously.
So child labor laws, I've learned, are there as much to protect the employer as the children. The kids after I don't know, not that many hours are done. They're tired and they just don't want to keep going. Our editor, this brilliant guy, Sasha Jokic, he would go looking for footage of them in between takes, where the camera was rolling, but and they'd sort of forget themselves. And so we got a lot of the performance out of reaction shots of them kind of when they sort of forgot that there was a camera there. And that got very kind of got very natural. It was also the four kids, the when I had the idea for the film, it was those four children that I knew. I didn't cast to them, I wrote around them. And that made it a lot easier because I just basically sort of wrote a little bit of an exaggeration of each of their personalities.
Did you conduct any workshop with the kids before you went on for the shoot?
A little bit. We did a table read, which was, but not a not a lot of workshopping. I mean, there was just these kids had very complicated schedules, so getting the four of them in a room was almost impossible anyway. So
But they're super smart. Super smart.
Oh, they're great kids. They really are.
Yes, they are. They are. Acted very well.
Are we going to see another part sequel to the Dead Drop?
They're pushing for it. I feel like it would.
The kids are pushing for it. You aren't ready.
Well, it's funny. I mean, you were asking, well, what's the future version of Abasement?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's definitely, obviously there are a lot of films and TV shows and so forth around the engine of a gang of kids getting into mischief. Obviously that's a very well trodden but also very potent area to play.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would depend on finding the right kind of MacGuffin, figuring out like what's the thing, and then finding a way to elevate it.
Yes. Very.
Absolutely.
Yes. So as we are checking our statistics here, the records here with the nominations and all, we see that Dead Drop is also been nominated under the children's film.
Oh, great!
Congratulations.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
So
Kids
yes,
rock.
I mean it's a wonderful children's film. In fact, it's fun film for them and a spy thriller sort of a thing. It connects with all the kids. In fact, it works well. And
It did connect well to me too.
yes. You want to ask anything in particular, Madhavi?
No, as you rightly said, it's like very well connected with kids, and kids connect with the movie. So I just
Yes.
said that I very well connect with this movie. It's the other way around. Did you understand? You
Yes.
got it? You got it?
Yeah.
Right.
That was my message.
All right. So it was wonderful talking to you, John, and we
I
wish
missed
that.
introduction. No, I missed introduction. I am so
Sure, please go
feeling
ahead.
sad
Please
about it.
go ahead.
This is really a pleasure. Wonderful. So lovely to meet all of you.
Yes, we all are sitting in different parts of the country. Like Sahitya is sitting in Mumbai, I'm sitting in Pune, Madhavi is sitting in Hyderabad. There are 3 different cities, and yes, and thanks to the internet and this technology that in the COVID times we are able to conduct this festival this way. In fact, it has been a blessing in disguise for us because if we did a live event at the festivals, maybe we couldn't or wouldn't have connected with the filmmakers the way we are doing it now.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, certainly one doesn't want to suggest that COVID is good, but there certainly have been silver linings for sure.
Yes, and this is and getting a chance to meet you, talk to you, know the filmmaker, what's in their minds when they're making the films and what they're planning ahead. It's interesting to know, and it's interesting to bring the filmmakers in the front and let the audience see the director.
Great, yeah, it's wonderful to be a part.
Thank you,
Yeah,
John.
but I don't know. How did these guys introduce you? I mean, they were good at introduction for you?
Madhavi is the anchor, and she's
whatever.
the introducer. Yes. And we were very scared, and we were very petrified when she didn't connect on the internet, and we were fretting in our feet that, oh my god, how are we going to get the introduction done and everything and all, because we haven't been prepared for it. That's Madhavi's area, and when you're when you're in a show and your anchor goes missing, so what the kind of feeling would be there. So
Absolutely.
which is why she's asking
But
and she's trying to pull our legs.
no, but it was pleasure to see you here, and wish you all the very best for your future.
Thank you, and to all of you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much for
John.
your
All right.
time.
Yes.
Bye bye.